So, if you are a sportscaster, what kind of family life can you have? Is it
Okay.
difficult to be a husband and a father as a sportscaster, or is it the kind of life that actually works really well?
Well, it all depends on the circumstances, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, in my particular situation, I've got an incredible wife. We've been married going on a quarter century now. My wife is a big lover of sports herself. I would argue that she's just as big of a sports fan, if not more than I am. She actually spends more time watching sports than I do. She's a big tennis fan. She watches golf. She watches, football. She watches like some of the morning shows that come on, like the first takes and the other, shows. So we have like a lot of conversations surrounding sports. I do a lot of traveling. I travel probably 100 days out of the year away from home. And so to be able to have a wife that's understanding of that and allows me, to travel to do something that I love is definitely a blessing. And I've been happily, faithfully married for, like I said, going on 25 years. And it's been an incredible run. I'll say it again. My life in this business has been incredible. I wouldn't trade it with anybody.
Well, let's talk about one incredible thing in your life. At the White
Sure.
House, you were at the White House with the 2014 Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. Now, how did you get to go
Oh,
to that?
yeah. How did I get to go there? Wow. Well, in true transparency, I've been to the White House at least a half dozen times, probably over a half dozen times. But yes, one of those times was with Seattle winning the Super Bowl. And I want to say that was 2014, maybe 2014. It's a blast. It's always kind of cool, going to the Super Bowl or going to Super Bowls, number one. So I did attend that one. I think I've been to maybe 10 or 12 Super Bowls. I've probably been to 20% of the Super Bowls that have existed. But it's fun because the Super Bowl champion, depending on who you are, you may or may not get an invite to the White House. And it just so happens that Seattle Seahawks did get an opportunity that year. And I just decided to go and cover it. But I've gone to the White House to cover different events. I was just there last year. But what is this? This is 2025. In 2024, when the LSU women's team won, and President Biden and Kamala Harris, vice president, they were in office at the particular time. I went there probably about 3 or 4 times during the Barack Obama presidency because the UConn Huskies, their women team, led by Gino Auriemma, they would go to the championship every year and win for 4 straight years. So that was four straight years that I went to that. So I guess about a half dozen times in all that I had an opportunity to visit the White House. Not only me, but my daughter also. So yeah, it's been great.
That's really fun. Well, since you brought up your daughter, let's talk about your son, Jacob, in the Special Olympics. He's a
Sure.
2024 gold medalist. And I want to know, you come to Special Olympics via mainstream sports. You have a very special perspective on the
Oh,
Special Olympics. Do you see it
oh,
differently than other people, you think?
do I see it differently than other? Yeah, I would say I see it differently than other people. Um, well, my son, for example, my son in my situation, uh, our son, my wife and I, we have a 15-year-old son. His name is Jacob, and he has autism. So, as a matter of fact, he's 15. He's getting ready to go into his junior year, but he just so happens to be a very, very good freestyle swimmer. So I taught him to swim 3 years ago. He really took to it, and he really, really enjoys it. But yes, to answer your question, yeah, I think what I see in Special Olympic athletes is that they're very, very competitive, and you have to have patience. There are so many families out here that have special needs, family members, whether they're sons, daughters, cousins, aunts, uncles, and they're an incredible group. I enjoy spending time around uh, um, the Special Olympics. There's so many stories. Again, I'm a storyteller, so there's so many different stories that we all have, whether you're a Special Olympics athlete or not, right? Whether you're an athlete or not, we all have a story to tell, and everyone's story has value, no matter who you are. The podcast, your listening audience, every person that's listening right now They have their own individual story. It's very, very important. And yeah, you just have to kind of embrace it. But to answer your question, yes, I think there is a difference. I love it. Makes me appreciate how lucky I am as an individual that I'm able to get up every day and walk around, or I can speak, or I am mobile. And not everyone has that luxury. So I try to tell people, or try to express to people, we should really be grateful, right, for the little things that we can do, that we have a held hand, we have all of our fingers, that we, have a nose that we can smell, we have eyes that we can see. You can't just take that for granted, because nothing is promised. You can have an accident one day and lose everything. So, and a lot of us want to complain about our situation. And if you ever feel that way, always remember, someone has it 1,000 times worse than you think you have it. You know what I'm saying? So I think we should all live in a perspective of gratefulness and gratitude. That's what I think our attitude should be, despite whatever our situation is.
Well, I did pick up on something you said that I think is interesting, and it speaks to your different perspective from having been in the main sports world. You said that the Special Olympics athletes are more patient. I'm thinking about regular Olympic athletes who have, of course, in some ways, tremendous patience, tremendous focus, 8, 9, 10 hours of practicing, getting up at 3, 4 in the morning every day for 12 years. And yet there is going to be an intensity about them, perhaps an impatience with any kind of imperfection in those athletes. Are you suggesting that these Special Olympics athletes, because they know they're never going to be perfect, they come to it with a slightly different mindset?
Yeah, I would say they come with a slightly different mindset. But I've found that Special Olympic athletes, at least in my case, they like repetition. They don't like tremendous changes. They like routine. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we try to stay on the same routine. For example, for my son, I know when we go to the pool to swim, let's say there's an issue at the facility where we go, and this has happened, where for some reason the hot water doesn't work. Well, before my son gets into the pool, he'll put his stuff on, he'll ask for his goggles and his nose clip, and he'll immediately go to the shower right before he goes to get in the pool. Now, if the water isn't hot, let's just say they've had an outage, the hot water doesn't work, I couldn't pay him $1 million to go into the pool. He's not going to do it, has nothing to do with the money. He's just not going to do it because he wants a hot shower. He's not going to jump. He's not going to take a cold shower. And by the way, I'm trying to work with him on this, because actually it shows that taking cold showers as a swimmer actually helps your ability to swim.
Yeah.
So we're trying to slowly ease that in, like maybe going from hot water to lukewarm water, and then you know what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
bottom line is, he likes to have routine, and that's how he's going to operate at his fullest potential. And if anything is off, he's not even going to want to perform. So yes, they definitely have different quirks.
Yeah. Perhaps that would be on the negative side in terms of routine. Can you think of something on the positive side, perhaps?
Oh, sure. Which can be relatable. That unmistakable high that you get when you're standing on that medal stand as the gold medalist. So my son, like I said, past 2 years, he's competed in the Georgia Special Olympics and the Summer Games, and he's won all 3 of his gold medals, right? 1 in the first year, 2 this past year. You as a musician, Adam, you've got to admit there's a certain high you get after performing and receiving that immediate response from a crowd when they clap in appreciation of your work, right? Of your sacrifice, of the time you spent practicing, correct?
Yes.
You as a teacher, I'm sure it's a high for you to see one of your students who you've taught either as a musician, or someone who you've taught to get over stage fright, or someone maybe you've taught some math skills, maybe someone you taught how to be a podcaster, or a YouTuber, something where you've offered your expertise to help someone else come up. And then when you see they succeed, you get like a natural high from that. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
So no different. No different.
Nice.
No different. I could tell you stories. I got a call today from a young man that I'm mentoring out in California. Just so happens he lives in California, but we got a call from a producer a couple of days ago where they want to do some basketball games. I won't say where yet until the deal is closed, but out on the West Coast, out in the LA area. And he's my mentee, right? And great guy, very, very talented, and all he needs is an opportunity. Well, I get a call. They're looking for a play-by-play guy to do these games out on the West Coast. Do you know anybody? Yes, I got somebody. And so Emery Ogletree II, who's my broadcast partner, who I've had an opportunity to work with in the past, he's the guy. So this is going to be his opportunity to, get on the 4-letter network and so that he can fly now. So really that's about, I get a tremendous high out of helping others attain where they want to get to, looking for nothing in return. Like that's now, I don't do it because I'm looking for nothing in return, but I will tell you a lot of incredible, wonderful things happen to me on a personal basis and on a professional basis. And I think that it's because of, good karma, treating people with respect. Yes, sir. No, sir. Being cognizant of the room, having a strong upbringing. I come from I haven't mentioned this yet, but I come from a tremendous, tremendous family. My dad and my mom still together. They've been married, over 60 years. They're still active, 87 and 82. A lot of positive experiences, to be quite frank with you.
We had just a tiny glitch there. You say your dad never called in sick all those years?
Never. Not one day did he call in sick, ever.
Wow.
Never late, ever. In the let me see, my dad retired when he was 52, I think. So we probably worked at the plant for probably 25 years. But like I said, never saw the guy miss a day. Now, we'll say this. My dad, I never really played ball with my dad. You throw, very rarely, if ever did. I can't remember even playing ball with my dad, not one day. But we never wanted for anything. My dad went to work every day. He came home every night. And he was the ultimate provider. It just so happens like most of my games were going to be, after school at a time when he was at work. And like I said, my dad didn't miss work.
Yeah.
But I don't harbor any bad feelings because I never played ball with my dad. But there's one thing I'll never forget. I thought I was this big time athlete, collegiate athlete, high school collegiate athlete. And I remember the year was 1987. I believe it was 1987. The Washington Redskins had won the Super Bowl. And I was really excited for them winning the Super Bowl. Maybe it was 88. I don't remember. One of those years. But anyway, I decided to challenge my dad, who at the time was in his 50s, to a race. So we went outside and proceeded to run like a 50-yard dash. Now, I had never seen my dad do anything athletic, not shoot a basketball, not swing a baseball bat, nothing. So we go out into the street. My brother counts us down. Get on your march. Get set. Go. All I could see was my dad take off like this. And all of a sudden, about 10 yards into the race, I pulled a cramp in my left leg. So I couldn't continue. I had to pull up late. I had to pretend like I was hurt. But what really hurt was my pride because he smoked me as a 55-year-old. And so that taught me, man, you cannot underestimate any competition because, you don't know what lives people have lived beforehand. You follow what I'm saying? So you can't judge a book by its cover. I'll never forget that. He smoked me. He smoked me bad. He smoked me bad.
Well,
Yeah.
you're obviously a born storyteller, and it's a pleasure to hear you tell your stories. Is there any other story you would like to tell, a favorite story, or maybe something that just occurs to you that would just be a lot of fun for people to hear?
Wow, it's for a lot of fun for people to hear. Man, I got to be honest, Adam. There's literally, and I'm not exaggerating here. There's thousands, thousands of stories I can tell. Let me think of a recent one. All right, so here in St. Louis now, I can recall a couple months ago, which was very exciting. Have you ever heard of the artist Flo Rida?
Yeah.
And I've heard of Flo. You've heard of Flo Rida. Well, here's a guy that I've known since 2007, and I met him in Atlanta when the Florida Gators they won a national championship, the NCAA championship, and it was held in Georgia. And I actually had an opportunity to go to a recording studio that night and do some voiceover work for a production company that they needed some liners done. So I, went and did some liners for this particular production house. And from there, it kind of sparked like a friendship. So over the years, I'll go to like his concerts on occasion, and he knows the stories about my kids, specifically about my daughter Christina, and so he's kind of followed her career. So it just so happens this past April, where my daughter's about set to get her master's degree, Flo Rida was performing a concert at her school here in Missouri. So we had an opportunity, to go backstage, and my daughter had a chance to, to hook up with him and, meet him. And it was just a phenomenal time. She had a chance to go on stage with him, to kind of rock out with Flo Rida. So those are the type of stories and access that, we've been privileged to have, access to throughout those years. So that's just, one of the many, many stories that I can tell and share. But yeah. And also, man, what's so cool in life? Meeting just quality people. And I consider you in that group, Adam. So for you to actually extend an olive branch to have me come on your show tonight, I really sincerely appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here on with you. And I know you're a very talented guy in your own right. So I'd like to ask you a question, Adam.
Okay.
What's it like for you being such a talented guy? You're a YouTuber. You've written books. You're a jazz musician. You're a podcaster. You're a mathematician. How do you balance it all?
Well, I'm going to take exception to calling myself a mathematician. I've studied math for fun, but I don't rank as a mathematician.
Okay.
But thank you for for that. We did interview Paul Lockhart on our show just a few weeks ago, and that was fun for me to talk to a real mathematician, and I had to know enough to be able to talk to him. So thank you for that. How do I balance it all? I mean, well, I tell people that it's really not a choice, that I'm driven by something inside that keeps me from focusing on one thing. It would be much better to have just been a writer, or even to just been a podcaster, to just do one thing super well. But there's something about everything I do. There's something behind everything I do that is the same.
Yes.
Something I'm after through the math, through the podcasting, some self-discovery, some self-growth.
Yes.
And so it's that fish that's floating right above my head. Like, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get that thing I'm trying to get. And every time I get it, there's another one, more something to learn about myself. And these different things I do, highlight them. Like learning a language taught me something that I couldn't learn about music until I'd learned the language. Once I started getting better at Italian, I'm like, oh, that's what's the problem with jazz.
Yeah. So are you fluent in Italian right now?
No. I've been studying Italian for 8 years, and I'm only now just beginning to get the hang of it. And the difficulties I had with Italian were the same difficulties I was having everywhere else. But it was studying Italian, where I saw the difficulty clearly. And that's one of the things that keeps me doing so many things.
Yes. Well, the beautiful thing about language and learning a language different from your own. Like, for example, I'd love to be immersed over in Spain somewhere where I'm forced to speak Spanish. So
Yeah.
I often see when I see my Spanish brothers and sisters of Latin descent, I'll say, quiero aprender más español un día, which means I'd love to speak Spanish, more Spanish one day, right? And I just say, necesito más práctica. I need more practice.
Yeah.
And so, but I love the Spanish language. I love it. And I'll continue to try to learn it. You know what I'm saying? And I think people can appreciate who speak different language, or let's just say you come from France, or you come from Mexico, or Italy, or wherever you're from, or Asia, or wherever, to hear someone try to speak your native language, I think that helps build bridges, right? Because you're literally taking the time to try to understand someone else's culture, someone else's language that they speak. And not that you're looking for credit, but you're going to get credit for that because you're at least trying. You might not necessarily be perfect in your Italian, or I'm definitely not perfect in my Spanish, but I'm certainly willing to try and engage, right? Engage with someone that does speak it, all in the effort to learn more. And as you said, there's a lot of self-discovery in that. Self-discovery is a never-ending process, right?
Right.
Just like learning, it's never ending because technology is ever evolving. Technology is evolving, right? The way we do things is evolving. Come on, Adam. You remember 20, 30 years ago? Would you get in a car with a stranger? No.
Probably not.
Weren't you taught not to get in the car with a stranger?
Yes.
so, but look at us today. Look how we operate today.
Right.
So you have to be open-minded to what's going on in the world today, the world that we live in. You have to be aware whether it's positive or negative. And I might also mention this. What a lot of people don't know about me is that I'm a lover of politics. Well, not the actual politics, but I love keeping up with politics so that I know what's going on, not only from the national perspective, but from the state perspective and from the local perspective, right? Because there are a lot of different things that are going on in our society that you need to be aware of because it will directly impact you, whether you like it or not. So I would admonish people to be engaged in what's going on around you in the political realm so that you can make the best possible life, or at least have an input on the best possible life you could possibly have, rather than leaving it to other people to dictate what kind of life you will have, if that makes sense.
I think that's advice that's useful on all aspects of the political spectrum. I
Yes.
think probably where we're at right now, it's not about one party or the other, but the general disconnection from politics that has brought us to this place of great division, and in some
Yes.
cases, situations for some people that are intolerable. It's the fact that
Yeah.
we've all been disconnected from that process.
Yeah. Well, Adam, I think that we don't have to get too deep into it, but I think on a lot of fronts, Adam, that's intentionally done. I think the divisiveness
Oh, I
is
agree.
intentionally generated to keep us apart.
And to
But if you
disconnect
were,
us.
yes, yes, but if you were really to dive in, a lot of us have so many more things in common that we have differences. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone wants to live their own life. Everyone wants to be left alone to aspire to do whatever it is that they want to do, right? And I don't understand why there's hate in the world. I don't understand that. I can't relate to that. I don't understand why you want to take advantage of someone else's pain. I think we'd all be a better place in the world if we instead tried to love one another, tried to help one another, right?
Right.
So it just blows my mind that we're still in this state. However, you have to still continually want to improve, right? And still try to spread the messages of love. And you have to first start with the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror and decide what you want to be to the society.
Perhaps that's also something that's been missing. the desire to be introspective. I mean, when we're constantly broadcasting ourselves on social media all the time, and we're always
Yeah,
under scrutiny, and we're always trying to show our best side, it can be hard to actually do the real work of saying, well, how am I really coming across to people? How am I
right,
really relating to people, not just through this little box on a screen?
right,
In the
right,
absence of that, you know, you can't have real connections with people.
right. I mean, that's absolutely true. I try to have, my connections with people by being engaged in the community, being engaged in other projects that I'm working on that, span from, here across the coast. So that's how I make my connection. I try to make my connection in other things that I do outside of sports broadcasting. And sports broadcasting is just one side of what I do. There are other things that I enjoy doing. I enjoy spending time with family. I enjoy, conducting private business. There's a lot I love, traveling. So there's so much more to me than just per se being a sports broadcaster.
And yet you are a sports broadcaster and you
Yes.
have these attitudes. And it
Yeah.
begs the question for me, is there something about sportscasting that you really love because it represents the best of what you're talking about? People communicating, people
Yes.
celebrating each other, supporting each
Yes.
other in a particular way.
Yeah. Well, again, it all comes from the love of the sport, right? And the stories that are behind the sports, the stories that are behind the participants in the sports. Now, me as a broadcaster, and I'll share this with you, what I don't think 90% of play-by-play announcers out there do. I will actually seek out the refereeing staff, right? The officials, the referees, the linemen, the back judge, because again, everyone has a story, and I try to find out. Don't you ever wonder? Wow, this guy's officiating on Sunday. That's just one day out of the week. I wonder what he does the rest of the week. Well, a lot of those guys are lawyers. A lot of those guys are teachers. A lot of those guys are drive trucks. A lot of so they have other things that they do outside of what you may see them actually do.
Yeah.
And to me, the art of storytelling, that's the fascinating part for me. Uh, for example, let's just say if there's a play where a referee or one of the officials gets hurt, right? And they have to leave the game. For me to say, well, I talked to John Official before the game and he told me that he was having a little bit of trouble with his hip. So him taking that fall right there is not going to help his situation. And people are going to be like, well, how did you know he had a bad hip? Well, because I took the time to understand his story, to try to get a piece of his story. It's not his whole story. It's not his whole life story, but it's something that he was willing to share with me that just so happened to come up during the broadcast that I was able to make a connection, right?
Yeah.
And it's nothing, and it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And it makes you look to be a better broadcaster because people can tell that you put the time and energy into the craft. You didn't just show up, grab a piece of paper with a roster on it, and just start talking.
It
Input
seems to
out.
me you're driven not only by, you're not only driven to learn these things about referees because it makes you look better as a sportscaster. Seems also the other way around. You're driven to be a sportscaster because you get to find out about the referees. You get to connect with more
Yes,
people.
yes. Not only that, and you can anticipate things that are going to happen during the broadcast, right? Let me ask you a question, and you don't have to be the biggest sports fan to know this. Is it uncommon for there to be sports injuries in an event? Those are pretty common, right?
Yeah.
So if I've taken the time out to find out about the head trainer, who I know at some point in the game is going to be making an appearance on the field to attend to an injured player, well, I can say Susie Smith, the Albany State trainer, just completed her 5th season here with the team. What she loves about it is the camaraderie she has with the players and helping them get back on the field. Again, something that the average viewer is not going to know, something that the average broadcaster is not going to even mention. They're not going to dive that deep into it. You follow what I'm saying?
I do.
Because it might not be that important to them, but it's important to me to know as best as possible all the potential stories that could come up in a particular broadcast.
I really like that.
It's helped me. It's helped me look. It's helped me last this long, right? So
Right.
I'm going to keep going with what has worked, while still being open minded to a lot of the changes that are going on in this industry and in this world.
Well, Duane Walker, I'm so glad we met, and I'm so glad that you took up my invitation. It was a pleasure to talk to you today.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And I want to thank your listening and viewing audience for taking the time out. I'm sure I put a couple of people to sleep, so my apologies on that. Or maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's some good rest from it, right?
Well, I want to thank our audience too. Thank you,
Yeah.
audience, as always, for tuning in again and again and again. I love my subscribers. If you like what you're seeing, please push the like button, please subscribe, and please reach out, put a comment below, and tell me what you thought of this show. Thanks very much for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you next time.